I did the same thing I did with The Blob. And even when I did Elm Street 3, where we took a new turn in that series, I honor the spirit of the original.
In some of our earlier conversations, I was like, how much are we doing CGI? How much are you leaning into the practicality? And he was like, oh no, anything that we can do, like we're gonna do practical.
There is such a thing as destiny, Christian. And hers is not with you.
Witchboard on the way. I actually did a little bit of homework. For the first time ever, I watched the original film with
Wow.
Tawny Kitaen prior to watching your film. So my first question to you, sir, is I wouldn't even call this a remake at all, but you did borrow some quips here and there, some tiny things, whether if it's the engagement ring or the construction and stuff like that. So was that all intentional to borrow some of the quips there, or was that supposed to be a tribute to the original film? And how did that all go down?
I did the same thing I did with The Blob. And even when I did Elm Street 3, where we took a new turn in that series, I honor the spirit of the original. If anything, I honor my memory of the original and try to bring that resonance back to the audience. That sounds a little magical. The fun thing was Kevin Tenney loved this movie. And so I feel that perhaps we did our job. There's definitely touchstones. The shower scene is a big one. Tawny Kitaen was most remembered for the shower scene in the original Witchboard. But that kicked off the whole Ouija board movie craze. And I wasn't that interested in doing a remake until I realized one of my fascinations, which is with pendulum boards, is the actual predecessor to Ouija boards. Boards go all the way back to ancient Egypt. And when the French Pope outlawed them in the 1700s, women were being burned at the stake for being witches by having a pendulum board. Thus evolved the Ouija board with a planchette some years later. So I felt it was legit for the series, and I also thought we put the witch in the Witchboard title that became kind of a foremost element. So I don't do a remake unless I actually have something exciting to add to it. And a number of things came together, starting with the concept of doing pendulum boards and Jamie Campbell Bower, who I was knocked out with in Stranger Things. And I just thought, okay, here's my antagonist, a very magical antagonist for this film.
Yes. Also, one of the things I did enjoy. By the way, the movie was definitely more fast break pace compared to the original film. I also appreciate that you added these flashbacks to France in the the witch hunt days and whatnot. So that was a major difference because we never got that in the original. There was no like flashbacks or nothing like
This,
that. So
this movie is a little bit like The Mask for me, in that I'm fascinated with a magical prop. So this is a one-off pendulum board that has a particularly dark history that's stolen from a museum, and from that point on, there's a parallel story element to what actually did happen in the 1700s that directly affects our lead lady. So they're not presented as flashbacks. This is a contemporary movie, but that's what gets into Madison Iseman's head in the story.
yes, and you just mentioned New Orleans. The I feel like we're living in a society now where most movies, even in the horror genres, that most films take place in like L.A. or something like that. What made this really unique was the New Orleans setting. I really quite enjoyed it. The Bourbon Street and the restaurants and whatnot. So,
Food.
what made you decide like, hey, let's do this in New Orleans?
I riff a lot off of personal experiences. I try not to make movies about movies, and I had an experience in New Orleans. It was a little bit of a dark time in my family. My sister was having an operation in a hospital in New Orleans with a specialist there. So I was there to be kind of her, be a guardian a bit for her years ago. And I was just walking around by myself in New Orleans, and they have some voodoo shops that are the real thing. And you walk into there and you can feel it. There's something about New Orleans. There is a history of French moving to that particular area in America's history, so it's a very kind of a French vibe. And that is where witches, witchcraft, and voodoo have some roots, and you can feel them. in certain buildings, in certain shops. And I never shook that. There's a, I don't know if you say what, if it's haunted or you can, I feel a spiritual weight. And I just thought cats, witches, New Orleans, pendulum board, Witchboard, we need to do this. So I really got to follow my own paranoia I experienced, and the beauty of New Orleans.
All right, so when you went there, did you mentioned voodoo? Did you go like to a voodoo shop? Did you see like an actual witch board and whatnot?
I there are objects there, that are the real thing. You can tell when you're at a tourist shop, and I'm always nosy, so I get someone advising me to go to the place just off the strip or whatever. So yeah, I saw pendulum boards in LA and never forgot them at a occult shop that was on Ventura Boulevard. I think it's still there, where they had a variety of pendulum boards, and I realized that, well, this is like tarot, and this is like Ouija boards. These are interpretive. It isn't letters. It's astrological signs. It's ancient symbols. This is about spell casting. It's about connecting to your subconscious to tell your own fate. There's actually a scientific explanation to how the subtle motor movements in your own hand when you're holding that pendulum are connected to your subconscious. Some people believe you're answering yourself. Other people believe you're opening yourself to a spiritual world. I just advise caution and positive intentions, or don't touch it.
I feel like I feel like this movie's kind of taken a while to come out now. So is there has it been like a process like from filming to distribution and whatnot?
Well, actually, we did a very early screening in Montreal. I was requested, and I didn't know that it would tag a 2024 year onto some of the things. So it's 2025. It's out when I wanted it to be out. It's a completely
Yeah.
independent film, and what you're seeing is basically a final cut. So I think we even screened it for JoBlo on the original cut. This is a cut with me tinkering a little more in on the effects, and the cuts tighter, and the music. Because it's an independent film and I produced and directed, I got to take my time.
You got to work with legends like James Wan, and
Hmm.
now Chuck Russell. So what was it like working with Chuck?
I mean, Chuck was the best. He's just like, he's a legend, and Dream Warriors was always my favorite. Oh yeah, so good, so good. And he was always known for doing everything practically. So when all this came about, I remember reading the script for the first time, and it was an ambitious script. There's a lot going on the page. And some of our earlier conversations, I was like, how much are we doing CGI? How much are you leaning into the practicality? And he was like, oh no, anything that we can do, like we're gonna do practical. And we did, and he was super collaborative, super hands-on. He would throw things my way, be like, how do you feel about this? Like, how do you feel about stunt people shoving their hands through a bed and grabbing you, or like being dragged down a bathtub into a 15-foot tank? And I was like, absolutely. Yeah, like I'm game. So we had so much fun together. And he's a great director, a great human, and he just has such a love for the genre too. So we shared that together.
No,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the internet's correct. This was basically your first horror film, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, good on you. Yeah, but yes, it was. This was my intro, man. This was my intro into the genre, which is equal parts exciting, equal parts jarring, right? Or intimidating in that sense, because man, I've always had like a certain respect and reverence toward the horror and thriller genre, only because I just know that, to me, some of these the most polarizing and cathartic performances can be found in the genre, right? And for an actor, it's almost like a playground if you're able to play in that playground, right? It takes a certain level, and to do it well. And it's also a genre that's kind of unforgiving in that way, where it's like, well, if we either know if so, like it, you were either good or you weren't good, is what I've always gotten. There's never any in between. And for me, it's once again as exciting and as one aspect of it was like, okay, now I finally get to play within these worlds, or within these confines of, like, for an actor, where I get to experience this playground where I get to ebb and flow throughout almost every human emotion you can think of, right? Which is a playground for an actor. It's still pretty intimidating at the same time, hence, like I just said, with 3 days of prep, I was like, shit, man, I had my work cut out for me. But it was really, really fun, and I'd do it again. And maybe I have some other things that I've shot from now to then that'll come out as well.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's within the genre, so yeah.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.